live via satellite. It's time. No, never mind.
Pillow talk. Pillow talk.
So, welcome to Pillow Talk. I'm Grant. This is Stephanie. And here at Pillow Talk and Forever with Purpose, we believe that frustration can end with good communication. So, Candy, how you doing tonight? Welcome. Appreciate it. I got people commenting on the actual Facebook saying that, am I speaking at the Democratic Convention? That
What?
that just don't seem fair if they do me that way. Hey, Sean.
There's Sean.
I couldn't believe that you'd let
Candy beat
Candy
ya.
beat you here. That ain't right. So tonight, make sure you got some things quiet.
Gotta get all the technology working here.
As you know from past, we don't know what we're doing, but we are learning drastically, quick, trying to learn some other ways to make it where you don't have that little,
Yeah.
are they here yet?
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's what we're against. Tonight is our first time to discuss questions. Hey, Waylon, Ray, how you doing? That has been asked us via email / messenger or text, just whatever. And tonight's question is, how do you balance your life with your calling?
It's a good question. We're gonna start right in the deep end.
Yeah.
No easy questions.
Wow. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, really to, excuse me, to talk about, and because there's so many variables, and you know, I have to start off almost with a question, you know, and that, what are you calling balance?
Yeah.
You know, or
Yeah.
you know, what do you consider a calling? It's a, you know, everybody has their different ideas, and so this is definitely a talk that we're going to do tonight. That is insight. Not thus saith the Lord. Okay, this
Absolutely.
is
This is 36 years of marriage, 53 years of life, empty nest, grandkids. I mean, this is kind of a culmination of just the things that we have kind of ascertained through all these years of what we discovered, the difference between this and how to have life balance, so to speak. Because you know it's important. We don't want to live. We're not designed to live in chaos and upside down our whole lives.
Absolutely.
So,
and it seems like it's really easy to do, but you know, a lot of like she said, our insight just comes from years of doing what worked for us, and we hope it works for you when you can apply it. If you totally disagree with it, then so be it. You're not going to hurt our feelings. Just don't post it on Facebook or the Sonic.
Yeah, please don't put it up on the Sonic. Grand Steph don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly. So why don't you get us kicked off here then with you know, some stuff that you were just sharing with me a little earlier. That's good.
We've had this question for a couple of weeks, and we've been kind of sitting on it. We spent a lot of time talking about it because, you know, we don't take any of this lightly. We understand that people are in different seasons and people struggle with different things. Marriages all are in different places, and obviously we all have a different life experience. We all have a different story. And I think that's the big key right there is we sometimes forget that our lives are stories, and that's what makes us interesting. That's what makes us relatable. You know, nobody likes a story that's boring. So, so I think for me, I think a lot of times I can speak to the moms out there maybe. I feel like for a large part of my motherhood and my early years of trying to discover, you know, that sentence we all use, well, I can't find my identity. I've lost my identity. But in finding that, I think nothing wrong with this, but whatever season we're in, we tend to think that is it. That's the stopgap. That's where my identity. So if I'm a young mother, man, my identity is in my kids. That's my calling. Or if if you have graduated college and you're entering the career world and you are walking up that ladder and you're making progress, well, that's it. This is the only place. This is my whole life. This is my calling. I'm going to medical school. I'm going to be a doctor. That's my calling. Or, you know, you get to be of a certain age and then all of a sudden you're taking care of parents, you're walking through a different season of life, and then, well, though this is my calling, everything's culminated to this. So what I think happens is, what I feel like I've learned is the mistake that I made in this was that I was looking for, I had an expectation, and I think we all do, of fulfillment to come from my kids, from my marriage, from my career, from other family. I looked to that as a place of fulfillment, when in fact those are assignments that God gives me. They are mission grounds. They are places to experience and try out the things that God has put in my heart. They are not designed to fulfill me in the whole, okay? Yes, absolutely. You find fulfillment in your marriage and in your families. Okay, but does that make sense? So there's frustration that happens the older we get and the more we go on this path, because we start to get tired, right? The frustration is that I have an expectation of fulfillment from what I'm calling my calling, okay? But in reality, I'm out of balance because I'm frustrated, because the reality is they were not designed for that. It's my calling that gives me my fulfillment. So let me kind of back up and hopefully make that a little more clear. So when I mistake my family, my kids, my career, my marriage for my calling, then that becomes the header from which everything that has to do with that, what I label as calling, becomes obligatory. It becomes primary in my life. Okay, what that does is, what I'm not recognizing is those are assignments. Obviously, a career, a marriage, and your kids are very long assignments. They take a lot of time and energy, but they are finite. There are points along those journeys when things shift and they end and they change. Your calling never changes. It grows and it expands. So I like to look at that. My calling would be the thing that's infinite. Good. It's infinite. It never ends. I personally believe my
not
calling
that your marriage should ever end,
no.
or your love for your children.
Right.
That's not what you're saying.
But if I instead take time to be intentional about discovering my calling based on the design that God's given me, and my purpose is people. Our purpose is people, right? That how we export our design to impact people, that's your calling. So if I, instead of putting my family, my kids, and my career as the header, where, let's just say family, for example, my kids, because I was a mom for a long time. I am still a mom, actually. I am still a mom.
It doesn't stop.
But when they were in school, because I thought kids had to be my calling and that's what my whole life purpose was, then everything I did fell underneath that. PTA, every soccer practice, every baseball practice, everything, okay? And I felt like if that was my calling, if my kids are my calling, then I could never say no to anything involved with my kids, because then I was saying no to God. And so that's where I kind of had some frustration, because what I didn't understand was that wasn't my calling. That was an assignment, very important assignment under my calling. When I look at my calling as primary, then all of a sudden I'm able to see and shift within my family, within my marriage, and within my career, whatever that looks like. I assign the correct values to those. Yeah, okay. You know, balance is about, a lot of times we think of balance being, well, like this picture right here, we think it has to look like this. Can y'all see that? Okay, and that's just scale. But in mathematics, you know, an equation equals balance. In algebra, you have A plus B equals whatever. I was terrible at algebra, right? But you have to assign the correct value to get the right answer in life. Okay, right. So that's kind of the thing that I've learned to do, is to not devalue, but to assign the correct value. Yeah. To my family, to my marriage. So the
first thing to do is we got to learn how to identify what our calling even is. And like so many things in life, one of the best ways to learn what something is or what you want is to know what you don't want.
Oh, that's good.
Or what it ain't.
That's good.
Yeah. I know. Ain't is not the right word.
It is a word in
Oklahoma. But it is now. So if we can identify what our calling's not, it might help us know what it is. And she kind of alluded to some of that. But, you know, your calling is not necessarily $1. it's amazing how many people chase the dollar and oh, God's just opening doors, God's doing this and all this things. And hey, Kendra, how are you doing tonight?
And
Danny, awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
So it's so easy to get to thinking that, you know, that's it. And that's so what you want to understand is the calling isn't the dollar. The dollar may come with the calling. That's what I'm trying to get to. A calling may come, or a dollar may come because you're in your purpose or your why or your calling of God. So he does open those doors. But the door being open doesn't necessarily mean it's the door you're supposed to walk through. Another thing we can't do when we're trying to judge our calling is oh, this just feels right.
Yeah. We screwed that up a lot.
Man, God's calling me to do this. It feels right. I know it is because the mountains is what God wants me to have.
I'm supposed to live in the mountains.
So, not that I'm not going to the mountains at some point, but you know, just because something feels good doesn't make it right. That's the problem we have in this world. If it feels good, we do it. And so you can't say God's calling me because it just feels so good, you know. And another thing with your calling, 99% of the time it doesn't leave your house when it turns 18. Okay? So Stephanie kind of alluded on that a little bit, but it's, you know, there is some people, and I know a couple that I really do believe their kids are their calling because they're completely turning the world their kids live in. Mm-hmm. And so their kids are going to get a brand new start in a Christian upbringing. Mm-hmm. And so I won't say 100%, but I will say 99% of the time, that's not what you're doing. So therefore, that's probably not what God's called you to do.
It's an assignment.
It's an assignment.
It's attached to that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, you know, everybody seems to struggle with the whole find your purpose, find your calling, find your why. You know, that's basically they're the same. I mean, you probably get really technical and break them into something slightly different, but they're basically the same. And it's really not as difficult as we make it to be. Mm-hmm. Everybody, I believe, has the exact same calling. And that's going to probably throw you, especially if you look at it as purpose, that's going to kind of throw you a little bit because everybody's like, find your purpose. Well, what's your purpose? You know, that's really big right now. Well, I'm going to give you your purpose. It's a little 6-letter word, and it's people. Mm-hmm. God called us for people. And you say, well, I don't know if I believe that. That's fine. You don't have to, but the Bible does. The Bible says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. That's the only 2 commandments that Jesus gave. Yeah. So God's our calling, and people are our calling. And that's the way I read that anyway. So right, wrong, and different. And
then you know, how we export that is really based on our design, because obviously we don't all just jump out and just, you know, we serve people differently. Right. But it's God is interested in his design for the kingdom of God, for having people as family. And so he wants to continue to create that. He says that he's seeking to bring people back into the family of God. And so he uses people to bring people back to Father, okay, to Absolutely. Father's house. And I think that's why it starts from there. Your why starts from the fact that you are here to serve meaning, and your purpose is designed to impact somebody else.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of that starts with just asking better questions, you know, of yourself. I think we're kind of lazy in the, you know, just let life happen kind of thing. Lazy?
Lazy is a
4-letter word. But it's a good 4-letter word. That's what I'm allowed to use. But, you know, we need to start asking some things like, you know, once we realize, okay, if people is our calling, then what do I have that benefits people?
That's good. Mm-hmm.
Right? Or how do I utilize what I have? Mm-hmm. Maybe you know what you have, but you don't know how to utilize it to people's benefit. Or why is it even important?
Yeah, that's...
You know, I mean, when we decided to start doing this Facebook Live, you know, I can't tell you how many times that we've thought, you know, because our lives are just that. our lives. And so we get to thinking that, man, this can't help nobody or do anybody any good. And so far people have stayed away by the millions, but it don't matter. You guys showed up, and that's extremely awesome. So, but hopefully there's something that we can say that we've been through, that you're going through, or you're fixing to go through, that can make your trip a little shorter across that desert. So,
or at least not feel like you're alone.
At least not be alone. Exactly right. So basically, that's kind of what we came up with on calling. But let's talk balance.
Okay.
So,
well,
I thought she was going to stop with the okay. She really stunned me there for a second.
He's not used to me being speechless. No. So it's interesting because when I think about balance, I mean, I do yoga on a regular basis. Now, I am not a yoga guru, so please don't judge me when I say something wrong. Okay. But one thing but seriously, so many things for me when I see the things in life that I do, or the lessons that I learn, or God connects a spiritual principle with a physical view or action or something like that. And I think about balance, because when you start yoga, and I keep trying to get him to do it, and he's like, oh my gosh, that's hard. Yeah, because yoga starts to be really able to do yoga well and not hurt yourself. It starts in your core. You have to focus on always keeping that core tight. I don't care if you're just doing this. If you're like with your gut all hanging out, you're not going to get any benefit. It starts with tightening your core. And when you apply that to your calling or to your design that God's created you to be, it starts with the core values of your life. So if we're talking about balance, I think we also need to come back to that thing of our core is our core values. Being able to focus on those began to help us eliminate some of that frustration, because we bridge that gap between the expectation and the reality. And we can begin to fine tune and focus on those things that are critical for us to maintain balance. Because when you do yoga, for example, and I'm not going to do it for you here, so I'm going to try to explain it without doing it, but
it's really cool to watch.
When you're trying to do a yoga pose, it's not herky-jerky, fast, quick. It is slow. You're concentrating on your breathing. You're concentrating on that core. And it is about it's about adjusting to maintain balance in the act of movement. And I think so many times in life we want to get to a place of balance and stay there, when the reality is, as we just talked about, it's in those seasons when we have to adjust. We are in movement, but we don't make quick, fast, herky-jerky decisions, because when we do that, we fall. When I make a fast movement in yoga, I'm going to lose my balance.
Is that because we lose our focus?
It's because we lose our focus. Because in yoga, the other thing is, when you're doing a really tough pose, you are focusing on a point, literally. I don't care if you're focusing on a spot on your wall or a stain on the carpet. You're focusing on a point in front of you with your eyes. Okay, listen to the allegory here. And then you align your body towards that. Right. And that's what keeps you in balance, and it builds the strength that provides incredible endurance.
Absolutely. And even in our marriages, frustration becomes when our boundaries are broken.
Absolutely.
Our boundaries are set by our values. So it's kind of a complete circle. Your core values, your core, all that. So I want to use these pictures that Stephanie alluded to earlier.
Picture time.
This is what everybody considers being in balance. Man, if I could just be like this all the time. And what this develops is if she spends $1, I spend $1. If she gets to be mad, I get to be mad. If my kids get this much time, then my work has to have this much time. I mean, it's usually the other way around. Usually it's work, kids. And so we're always trying to, work this balance. And then we get frustrated because this is what it looks like all the time. So if this is what it looks like all the time, and we're always frustrated with this, I think we need to come up with a different idea, a different picture of what it is. And I think what just really got on me this weekend was if we would stop thinking balance and start thinking level. And so I want to show you another picture here. Water always seeks its own level. All right? But what do you see here? You see there's times that it's deeper than others, but the water's still level. right? So what does that represent to me? Is I got a little deal just flashed over here in my eye, and it just really messed me up. Sorry, squirrel. What this represents to me is there are times in life that our assignment requires more time than we can give to our calling and our assignment. And instead of getting frustrated and irritated and angry and just depressed at that, just know there are times when our children requires all this. But what we don't want to ever do is get over here and beach our calling.
Yeah.
All right? We want to stay over here where the calling is still getting some attention, what God's called us to do. If all I ever think about are my kids, there's a whole dying world out there that I'm not paying any attention to, right? And I'm not, I mean, even talking about that from the Christian standpoint, I'm talking about that as in people need a lot of things. Christianity is just the main one. All right? So as you can see, life goes up, down, but if you will have your focus on your calling, make your decisions with your kids based on what God's called you to do, then you can still have a level life while going through the turmoil and stuff. And what really made me think of this was, many of you know, especially Candace, she helped walk us through this. My mom passed away about 1.5 years ago. And when she did, that was a time that the assignment was very time consuming.
Very time consuming, yeah.
Yeah, and heavy. So, I mean, you know, your mind was always in a different place.
Emotionally and physically.
And, but what me and Stephanie vowed to do was, and we, like I said, we didn't call it this at the time, but we vowed to continue to go towards what we felt we were being called to do. And that was to talk to people about marriages. And the way we were doing that at the time was by helping another couple, Greg and Julie Gorman, with their marriage conferences. So even while my mom was sick, we would go and help serve at these marriage conferences because Greg and Julie was pointing us towards our calling while my mom was going through the assignment. Now, we didn't go on a 6-month tour with the Gormans, did we? Yeah. We would just go and come back. And so we did that because of...
And in those seasons, when you are in that transition, kind of, there was, we had to be really strong together because there was a lot of, it wasn't convenient, it wasn't easy, didn't get very much sleep, but we understood the whole level thing. We understood that this is a season where this is pretty deep right now. We're in deep weeds right now. We're in deep water. But we know that we don't give up on the mandate that God had given to us as a couple and as a calling beyond the assignment that he just said. And so just know that just because things get hard and just because you still have to make a call to manage for your calling, okay, make a call to manage for your calling, it doesn't mean that it's just going to be easy. And so that is how you have to assign the correct value to that. Is how valuable is that to you? And it becomes easier to say no to things when you understand what the assignment is right now, but yet also understand how your calling overarches that, and those two things become aligned together, and you're able to assign the value.
One thing we discovered is you can't find balance trying to control your life.
Right. Yeah, that was
there's
huge,
things you just don't have
thing.
control over, and so there's no way to find balance if you're trying to control your life. And then another thing is we can seek level in the turmoil. All right, we can seek. This is how we're going to respond. This is how we're going to act. When Mom was going through her stuff, there was a certain amount of, this is how we need to be for the family. And so we did our best to try to keep that level. So, as they were having extreme up and downs, we did our best to try to keep it level. And then when we had our moments, our family was there to help us keep it level. It was really, as sad of the moment as we went through, it was really a beautiful time in many ways. So balance and levels come with the boundaries we set. But let's go back to yoga for a moment. So balance and yoga, as you said, require certain things, and that's focusing on a spot
in front of you.
in front of you.
That's key.
And that's vital.
It's vital because honestly, there are times we get distracted by the past and what we see swirling over here, as you just did. And it's easy to get distracted by that. And that's why the more you understand what you're focusing on, the less distracted you will become. The less distracted you are, the more balance you'll have in your life. The more balance you have in your life, the less frustration and the more fulfillment. And that just all begins to cycles up and up and up.
Yeah, and I really believe if we will keep God's heart as our heart, and that is above all, love the Lord your God with all your soul, heart, and mind, and love your neighbors as yourself, then it becomes so much easier to stay that level course through all this. And so hopefully this has meant a little bit to you all tonight. Hopefully it at least shares some clarity of how we made it through some things, and we hope that it helps when you're going through things. You got anything else you want to share? We're kind of kept these poor people a little long.
I know, we're a little long, so it's hard to hit it fast. So
we're long-winded.
It's a big subject, and I'm sure sometimes it just invokes more questions when you start to present stuff like this. So if you
shout
have
out
questions,
to Tim Brown right there.
Yeah.
That's an old high school
Oh
buddy.
yeah, hey Tim. So if you guys have some questions, or if you want to, private message us, for a longer extension of this, or if you have some clarifications that you need, or just
get your
thoughts.
questions of your own that you just say, hey, I wish you had hit on this. Send us something. Give us some feedback. We're new. We're not very good.
We're here to serve you.
If it wasn't for my looks, there'd be no reason to tune in at all. But
your graphics.
Yeah, for my graphics. So right there.
Well, we do understand that the importance of, there are so many people out there struggling with so many different things, and obviously we don't know what that is. So it's really important to us that our calling is to be able to speak words that are going to touch your heart, because if we know they touch your heart, it's going to instigate some transformation and change in your life. And that's what everybody is created for. We're created to grow and change. So that's what we're here for. So we want the feedback of what it is that you're needing assistance with.
Because we want to maximize your purpose. And the only way we believe that we can do that is to help you start to eliminate the frustrations in your life, and you'll do that through more intimate conversations. So have a great evening. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next Monday, same time, same place, 7 o'clock here, Facebook Live. Love y'all. Thanks.
Have a good week.